So there's a risk of severe thunderstorms today, February 24th, 2018, and could potentially be the most significant severe weather threat we've had so far this year. I want to have a brief run through this. The newest outlook by the SPC, issued at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, has an enhanced risk of severe weather running from the southwestern corner of Indiana to northern Louisiana. Within this enhanced risk zone, there is a potential for strong tornadoes, which is marked by the 10% and significant hatched areas across eastern Arkansas into western Tennessee and even southwestern Kentucky. Tornado threat extending all the way up to Ohio and eastern Tennessee, or Texas, not Tennessee. I want to briefly go over the model runs, what they're showing about this, and the NAM always seems to be the most aggressive with severe weather threats. It's indicating the supercell composite parameter of about 11 to 12 in this kind of enhanced risk zone, and the highest value here doesn't really matter because, like I said, the NAM tends to overdo things, but might give you an idea of instability if moisture increases at the surface, because moisture is probably going to be the primary destabilizing factor with this kind of event. We see surface dew points in the mid-60s, upper 60s even, in some locations, and that's going to be the primary destabilizing factor because vertical instability is not going to contribute substantially to the thermodynamic environment. Wind shear is going to be the biggest factor, of course. This is looking at 500 millibars, tremendous winds spreading into the Midwest, Southern Plains, and on the eastern periphery of this, it's going to spread over the enhanced risk area with some very strong mid-level winds, and coincidentally, a very strong low-level jet, which, as they usually do, intensifies nocturnally. This is going to be the main contributing factor to tornadoes and strong tornadoes, potentially, not only along the line. There's going to be a main line of storms developing in the afternoon, as reflected by the western extent of the slight risk area in the outlook, but also there could be supercellular storms ahead of the main cluster, which could pose an even higher tornado threat. But mainly, we're looking at a damaging wind threat, as we see a 30% risk by the SPC. Hail is a consideration with some of the initial activity in Texas. Mid-level lapse is probably steeper there, but mainly, yes, widespread wind possible, which could be significant in some cases, and tornadoes, especially in the area that is highlighted, and I'm going to highlight this as well with the pen as soon as I figure out how to use this. This area is under the gun for potentially serious severe weather, and so that's the area that needs to pay a lot of attention, but anywhere in this risk area should be paying attention and having sheltering plans prepared beforehand. Also, making sure that no weather radios are working properly, because this is going to be the first big severe weather event of the year, potentially. And lastly, a run through of the Storm Prediction Center's HREF version 2 model, which gives an idea of simulated reflectivity. And this is just an idea, of course, not something that should be taken literally. It is suggesting that there is going to be the initial activity over in Texas, with more activity developing across in Arkansas, some supercells developing ahead of it. I need to point that out because that's potentially going to be something to really focus on. Whoops, I switched. Anyway, this area here, which has been highlighted for the tornado threat, is primed for potentially seeing discrete convection ahead of the main line. That is what would be the biggest factor to tornadoes developing, but the tornado threat and the magnitude of overall severe weather threat depends on primarily three things: the thermodynamic environment, the vertical instability that can develop, and proximity to other convection and convective mode. But that was a brief overview, forecast of the severe weather threat that's developing later today. The first outlook update from the SPC. This area could see some significant severe weather, so people need to pay attention to this area. It is not an extreme situation, but a situation that definitely warrants further monitoring. So stay tuned to the National Weather Service and the SPC.